Right, so that was Rahul Gandhi, obviously perturbed and angry at how what he called a laughing response that the Prime Minister gave in Lok Sabha yesterday on the issue of Manipur. But obviously, a day later in the Lok Sabha, once again, there have been several changes that have been made in the criminal laws. They have been proposed. Home Minister Amit Shah today tabled the bill to amend CRPC Act, 3 criminal procedural laws to be replaced, and the IPC, CRPC and the Indian Evidence Act, they will be replaced. Home Minister Shah says using false identity for sex is a crime now. These are the proposals. Provision of sedition offences to be repealed, 7 years of imprisonment for mob lynching of the accused, and a death penalty proposed for mob lynching. These are the names of the bills that were tabled: the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita 2023, and the Bharatiya Sakshi Bill 2023. And Home Minister Shah obviously saying that using false identity for sex will be a crime, and change in whether these changes are meant to keeping several types of crimes in mind. To discuss that further, we have Varghese with us. Varghese, when we talk about the changes in these laws, and especially using false identity for sex, is this a significant step, obviously, towards, as far as the crimes against women are concerned? And now, do you believe these will deal with them strictly?
Well, right now, this is actually, there are laws against impersonation already in the system. And now it looks like they've added the factor that, see, most of the impersonation laws would, in fact, punish that person only for the act of impersonation. But here it takes it further. What they define what that act is also could be. For example, impersonating and having relations with a woman under the guise of that impersonation, or trying to make her believe that that person is not what what that person wanted to impersonate as. So that impersonation laws have been there. So now it has been taken a step further, also adding an act in which it is specifically described as punishable. So technically these laws would have been separate. Impersonation laws would have been separate. The laws of abusive relationship would have been separate, and now it looks like they have been combined in this particular aspect of the law. So impersonation with the intention to I mean, not being a lawyer, but if using those words, impersonation with the intent to outrage the modesty of the woman, or impersonation, a criminal element has been added to it. So that is something quite new, but in the overall, the overhauling of the laws like the CRPC or the IPC, there has been a big talk about, trying to remove the colonial legacy laws. Some of the proposals was to delete some of those provisions of the law that were said to be having a huge colonial hangover. Even the British government don't have those laws. The British themselves don't have those laws now. So it's been there in the system, it's been dragged on it. So now this complete overhauling is something that has been proposed. Previously it was just to go for additions and deletions so that it reflects the current reality of society, and also that we have come out of our colonial legacy. But here there seems to be a total overhauling of the law, and this aspect of that overhauling, this particular this thing combines various aspects of a person trying to impersonate. Now, how this is being interpreted politically is also something that we need to see, especially this particular law.
Right. Obviously, there are obviously fine print to it, and let's listen in to what Amit Shah proposed in the Parliament, and how the government plans to take these 3 laws further.
महिलाओं के प्रति अपराध और सामाजिक समस्याओं के निपटान के लिए भी हमने ढेर सारे किए हैं। शादी, रोजगार, पदोन्नति के झूठे वादे और गलत पहचान प्रकट कर जो यौन संबंध बनाते थे, उसको अपराध की श्रेणी में पहली बार नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार लाए। गैंग रेप के सभी मामलों में 20 साल की सजा या आजीवन कारावास का प्रावधान किया है, जो आज नहीं है। 18 वर्ष से कम आयु की बच्चियों के मामले में मृत्यु दंड का भी प्रावधान। मान्यवर, मॉब लिंचिंग का बड़ा शोर मचा है, हमने उसको केयरफुली करा है। मॉब लिंचिंग के लिए भी 7 साल आजीवन कारावास और मृत्युदंड तीनों का प्रोविजन कर हम प्रावधान मान्यवर लाए। मान्यवर इसमें पुलिस अधिकारियों को भी जवाबदेह किया है, वकीलों को भी जवाबदेह किया है और न्याय करने वाले के लिए भी मर्यादाएं रखी। इसमें महिलाओं का और बच्चों का विशेष ध्यान दिया गया है। अपराधियों को सजा हो इसकी चिंता की गई है और पुलिस अपने अधिकारों का दुरुपयोग न कर पाए ऐसा भी है। इसके अंदर राजद्रोह जैसे कानूनों को एक और हम निरस्त कर रहे हैं तो दूसरी ओर धोखा देकर महिला का शोषण करने वाले और मॉब लिंचिंग जैसे जघन्य अपराध करने वालों को दंडित करने का भी प्रावधान है।
So, राजद्रोह इसकी बात की गई, sedition, the sedition law, Varghese. Obviously, the government says that it will be repealed, and the word sedition is not proposed in the law actually, but it stays in section 150.
Yeah, it does stay in the sense that you know, sedition in the understanding of how the British had put it in place. There are several provisions in it, even to the point where there could have been interpretation that a minor difference of opinion with the government also could be treated as sedition. Yeah, so that would be there. But still, there is an open account of sedition that is there in the proposed laws, in the sense that it doesn't define it as sedition. But anything that allows for, technically it's like this, the underlying factor is that anything that tries to negate India's sovereignty, integrity, as well as its the character of this country, well, that is something that will be treated as, you know, under sedition. Basically, those who would try to push for separatism or you know, the ideas of succession, well, that will be something that will be taken into consideration, but not, you know, criticizing the government and aspects such as that, but only with this intention, because they have given that explanation also under it, that the intention was nothing but taking on the government of India is to actually break or try to bring in succession or idea of succession. That will be treated unlike, but it doesn't define it as sedition. It puts it under this larger scope.
Right. So, wherever the government feels that the unity, integrity and the fabric of the nation is under threat, then this changed form of sedition would apply, which falls under section.
But then it's
150.
again open. There's a question about, I think, probably when the laws are being put around and more interpretations would come from the wordings of those laws, those particular law factors. I think then we'll try to understand how does it actually play, because now it looks like some kind of an open kind of interpretation that is there for it.
We will get to know more about that obviously when it takes shape. Two critical aspects, Varghese. One is mob lynching and the other one is rape, gang rape. Now, mob lynching, it would get you around 20 years of life. No, mob lynching would be punished with capital punishment and 20 years of jail or life imprisonment for gang rape and death penalty for minor. Now, this aspect also is very critical as far as you know, the Indian legal system is concerned. We have seen several incidents in the past, starting from you know, the Nirbhaya case to later on. But the cases drag on, and finally at the end, you know, after much legal battle, there is justice and closure to the case. In your opinion, obviously announcing you know, such long-term or heavier punishments like 20 years for you know, or death for mob lynching, do you believe that this would act as a deterrence, the longevity and the impact?
Capital punishment to a large extent is now being technically avoided by the courts and the judges, who, unless it's the rarest of the rare case which they think it is, that is when you have capital punishment being given. Otherwise, across the world, and probably there are nations with India has had agreements also, when it comes to capital punishment, it has been an issue that has been in focus, because, you know, there's a huge question about human rights on capital punishment, whether it's right or wrong. But anyway, that we are not, it's about our pay grade also to in fact discuss whether it is right or wrong. But the fact remains is that those aspects are there. So when you talk about mob lynching and you actually have this provision also with capital punishment also being provided as the option into it, well, the idea of law is to deter and to maintain the status quo. But does it actually have the ability to do that? Of course, we have seen laws framed across the world. it is only going to be as long as the status quo is maintained. And when there's a break in the status quo, you try to make an example of those who broke the status quo as such and try to restore the status quo back immediately. That is the idea that is there. But then when it comes to mob lynching, it's been a big demand that has been there. We have seen several cases of this. And because of that, I think this has been put as a provision. But again, I think we'll have to first, go through the details as far as the devil is in the details. But a heavier punishment to many of the laws, this thing has been proposed even earlier because there are nations who, we are still talking about 20 years. There are nations that keep on adding the punishment to the point where the person's entire life is in jail.
Right.
So those aspects are there. But still, I think we have not reached that level of kind of punishing a person who's committed an offense. But here, at the same time, there is an attempt to actually make the punishment a little more heavier.
Right. Varghese, there is one critical aspect that Home Minister also mentioned, that is of community service. We have seen this happening in other countries in the West. But before that, let's listen into what the former Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad and BJP MP Tejasvi Surya had to say on this.
ये बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक बिल है। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का अभिनंदन, माननीय गृह मंत्री जी का अभिनंदन। इस बिल की मोटी खासियत बातों को समझिए। ट्रायल क्यों लटकता था? जिस एसपी साहब ने इन्वेस्टिगेट किया वो रिटायर हो गए, वो डीजीपी बन गए। अब आप वेट करिए, अब जो एसपी अभी है वो केस फाइल देखेगा और गवाही देगा। थानों में जाइए तो हर जगह गाड़ियां लगी हैं, मोटरसाइकिल लगी हैं, केस प्रॉपर्टी, सबका वीडियो करिए और जमा करिए, सबको डिस्पोज ऑफ करिए, थानों को साफ रखिए। भगोड़े आतंकवादी केस से भागे हुए हैं, उनका ट्रायल सेपरेट होता था। नो, आप भगोड़े हैं तो आपकी अनुपस्थिति में ट्रायल होगा, आपको सजा मिलेगी। महिलाओं की चिंता, राजद्रोह के दुरुपयोग को रोका गया, लेकिन आतंकवाद और अलगाववादी के खिलाफ सख्त कार्रवाई का प्रावधान है। और पूरे जो फॉरेंसिक एविडेंस लाया गया है, तो मैं तो कानून के एक छात्र के रूप में इस ऐतिहासिक बदलाव का अभिनंदन करता हूं।
देश के क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम ब्रिटिश ने किया गया कानून के ऊपर चल रहा था। आईपीसी हो, सीआरपीसी हो, एविडेंस एक्ट हो, ये तीनों कानून जो भारत के क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम के फाउंडेशनल टेक्स्ट है, इन तीनों कानून ब्रिटिश के ज़माने के था। मैकॉले ने इसका ड्राफ्टिंग किया था। ये ब्रिटिश हुकूमत को सपोर्ट करने के लिए, उनके इंटरेस्ट को बचाने के लिए किया गया था। दुर्भाग्य यह है कि देश को स्वतंत्रता होने के 75 साल के बाद भी इसका परिवर्तन नहीं हुआ था, भारतीकरण नहीं हुआ था। परंतु आज मोदी सरकार ने माननीय गृह मंत्री अमित शाह जी के द्वारा 3 ऐसे कानून को ले आए हैं पार्लियामेंट में, जो मूलभूत रूप से भारत के क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम को आमूलचूल बदलाव करेंगे और भारतीयों के लिए, भारत के लिए क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम आज देश में शुरू हो चुका है। मैं मानता हूं कि आज़ादी के अमृत महोत्सव के इस घड़ी में देश के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा गिफ्ट ये मोदी सरकार के ओर से है। छोटे छोटे जो पुलिस स्टेशन में जो पीड़ित होते हैं, जो अंडर ट्रायल्स है, जो नाम बदलकर महिला के ऊपर अत्याचार दुर्व्यवहार होते हैं, बच्चों के खिलाफ अपराध होते हैं, ऐसे कई सारे चीज़ों को इसमें सम्मिलित करके एक नया तरीके से इसको एड्रेस करने का कोशिश हुआ है। इट इज़ हिस्टोरिक।
So overall, Varghese, the plan, the proposed changes are welcomed, and obviously talking about the archaic laws from 1860s, Macaulay, as he was mentioning, Tejasvi Surya, all those aspects to it. One new thing before we took those sound bites I mentioned was that of community service. We have seen, preferably Western countries primarily using this kind of treatment for lesser serious offences. Do you believe this is going to cut ice here?
Community service is a good idea in the sense that you put the person into work for the community at large, and community service time also tend to reduce the sentences as well, especially for the lesser this thing. It makes the person more productive at the same time. You are before the system was, of course, we know that they put into rigorous labor, or they were put into a jail, they were inside the system, they followed and they came out, they actually earned a little bit from whatever the money or little work that they did. But when it talks about you are letting them to in fact become more better contributors, and that has been a proposal that's been there for quite some time, and probably at least now they are looking at the possibility of implementing it.
Right, and as far as the changes as a deterrence goes, we have seen time and again when a crime happens, obviously the larger premise of the conversation is based on why is this happening again and again. One issue is that of policing, law and order. The other one is whether the offender or the criminal is afraid of the law or not. Do you believe that removing these archaic laws and maybe giving them more teeth is going to cut eyes, and somehow the burden on the judiciary would come down?
Well, if you say that can a law deter someone from doing anything, well, it's not proven. As I was saying, the law only maintains the status quo. It does not prevent a crime. Everybody thinks the law can prevent a crime. It doesn't prevent a crime. It tries to restore the status quo in society as fast as possible. And what it does, it removes the disturbances, and technically I'm talking about it. It removes the disturbances and ensure that the status quo is maintained so that something like that doesn't happen. Only thing, of course, on the punishment factor is what we see the increase and the possibility of severe punishment for those who violate some aspects of the law that we see, because over here, one thing we should understand, if there is a person out there who's decided to break the law, he is going to break the law. Only thing, it is not. It might deter a lot of people, but there will be people who are going to be determined to break the law for whatever X, Y, Z interests of theirs. But at present, what happened was there was this confusion about how to immediately restore that status quo, how to get the investigation into place, how do you punish them immediately, how to, these were the factors that were there. Those factors have been addressed right now, in the sense that you can, if once this comes into the immediacy of action on the ground has increased as fast as possible.
Right. And one final word, Amit Shah, I'm quoting him here, the aim will not be to punish, it will be to provide justice.
That is also there, because one of the factors that the lawmakers in the parliament have also been talking about is that the manner in which a case was investigated. In fact, we have Ravi Shankar Prasad speaking about it. If an investigating officer gets promoted and goes a stake, it lies over there. So the continuation and the final outcome of the process of law, that was something that used to get stuck at various points because of administrative issue within those who are enforcing it. That also has been addressed.
That also has been addressed. Thank you so much, Varghese, for breaking it down, the new proposed laws and some changes in not just the name, but also the nature of fighting crime in the country. That's it from me and Varghese. Thank you so much for watching.